to all of our Scleroderma warriors out there, and welcome to the Scleroderma Foundation of California's Sclero-Sun Podcast. My name is Tina Berger, and I'm the Patient Services Director, and with me today is Alejandra Serrano, Scleroderma warrior and our Administrative Coordinator, along with Maria Dastur, Director of Community Engagement with our partners at the Scleroderma Foundation of Greater Chicago. We are excited to dedicate this episode to advocacy, a fitting topic during June's Scleroderma Awareness Month. Please join me in welcoming some amazing Scleroderma warriors and dedicated members of our Scleroderma advocacy team: Karen Brown of Chicago, Stephen Bunting of Virginia, Elaine Wiley of California, and Grace Poor of Michigan, who will talk about some of their incredible contributions to advocacy and how they inspire others to join the movement. So before we get started, I'm going to speak with you, Maria, and wanted to see if you can share a little bit with us, with our audience, just what is advocacy and what is the National Advocacy Collaboration?
Well, thanks for having me here today. We're talking in the community about how we wanted to support members of the community in raising awareness and fighting for laws or policies that impact people living with scleroderma and, frankly, all the other comorbidities and other rare diseases. Because California exists, Chicago exists, DC exists, we started a national collaboration, and we gained immediate attention and impact with people from all over the United States wanting to get involved. I think we were a little surprised at first with the engagement, but as it grew and grew, we started to see all of the ways that advocates were getting involved. And I know our friends here will share some of those ways as we go on further today.
Thank you. So why are so many people drawn to advocacy right now?
No, I don't think it's one thing. I believe that people want to have a voice and impact change. But advocacy and being on this team isn't just about talking to lawmakers. There are so many different ways that you can impact change, whether that's supporting just one person or fighting for a law or raising awareness for June awareness, getting proclamations. There's so many different ways to get involved. And when people are smacked with scleroderma and their whole life changes and they lose their identity, maybe aren't able to work anymore, advocacy gives them a way to still make that impact.
I appreciate you saying that. As I was going over these questions and I was thinking about things, it brought me back to a memory of my own. When I worked at UCLA, it was the first time I had heard about advocacy, and is when I had a chance to be a part of a bigger picture. I was working at UCLA and I was attending a scleroderma conference during Hill Day in DC. And that's where I met some amazing advocates alongside, at the time, the president of the Scleroderma Foundation Southern California chapter. Her name was Elaine Rosen, and she was there in support of her best friend, Bonnie Finn, that was a big part of the organization then too. And I was invited sort of at the last minute as I was there for the conference, and I thought, this is great, I would love to do it. And it was amazing to me to be a part of something that I had no idea, what this all was about. It was a wonderful experience. I met amazing advocates alongside that president. And there was a woman in our group, her name was Sharon, I had met for the first time, that was our group's like Scleroderma warrior that was going to advocate in our group of people. And, she explained to me what we were doing, why it was important. And I never forgot that impact of visiting the many government officials throughout the day. That was over 20 years ago. I wanted to say maybe 22, 23 years ago. I was trying to kind of put the math together. And I know that since then it's become so much more. But in my mind, that's what advocacy was. It was nothing more than that. So here we are today. With that said, I thought, how do you define advocacy for someone who's brand new to this concept of advocacy? And, why is this so much more than lobbying?
There's so much different work that needs to be done. It's not just one thing. And lobbying, I think everyone on this call knows, is a long and slow process. And we do get some wins, which is very exciting. But what about improving day-to-day life? What about someone going to a doctor and the doctor recognizing scleroderma even exists, let alone how to care for it? What about being out in public and maybe looking a little different, or needing help or assistance because your hands aren't working. There are so many different facets to this. And we try to provide that professional development and personal development for the members of the team so that you can feel confident going out there and impacting in whatever way you want to impact.
Appreciate that. So I like that you sort of opened up the door to the segue of the advocates. So now I'm going to talk to you guys about some things here. And I want to talk to you about what kinds of things have you done in 2026, and what are you doing for June awareness, and what you're excited about that's coming up. But before, putting that sort of in your mind, I would be nice to just get to know you guys a little bit. So can you just all give me a couple sentences each? I'll call on you one by one. And just share a little bit about you and your scleroderma journey. Elaine, I'm going to start with you. If you can unmute.
Thank you so much. I'm Elaine. I live in Los Angeles. I'm 48. I was diagnosed with scleroderma as an overlap in 2016. My journey is a little different than everybody else's because I was under the care of a rheumatologist already. I have also a rheumatoid arthritis diagnosis, so I have an overlap. So my diagnosis came a little easier than most scleroderma warriors because I'm in a metropolitan city at a teaching hospital. My rheumatologist was familiar with scleroderma when I got these symptoms. And so my diagnosis has come a lot easier. And I think that's why I got involved in advocacy, because I'd never heard of scleroderma. And I did the worst thing you could do, Google it. And when I Googled it, I was met with so much fear and old information and old statistics. And so I wanted to advocate, because nobody's ever heard of it, and I want people to hear about it. And secondly, I just want us to bring the new information to the table for people being diagnosed now.
Thank you, Elaine. Appreciate that. How about you, Grace?
So I was diagnosed when I was 8 years old. I'm currently 19, so it's been 11 years.
Wow.
It was a little bit of a rough diagnosis at first because we were living in a foreign country and really no one knew what was going on. And we were living there because of my dad's job. But we did come back to Michigan, and we bounced around from doctors at Cleveland Clinic, Detroit Children's Hospital, and U of M Children's Hospital. And now I also go to the University of Pittsburgh with a scleroderma specialist. But it took some bouncing around, and one of the first doctors who diagnosed me actually told me I had 5, maybe 10 years to live. And he said that in front of me as an 8-year-old,
Wow.
which is absolutely traumatizing and
Ridiculous.
really crazy. But after all of that, I came out stronger, and I do a lot of work with different organizations, especially to help kids, because I'm in that young adult phase where I'm considered no longer a kid, but my scleroderma still is pediatric scleroderma. It's never going to be adult scleroderma because I was not diagnosed as an adult. I was diagnosed as a kid. So it's going to permanently be pediatric scleroderma. And I didn't say what I was diagnosed with, actually. I was diagnosed with ILD, interstitial lung disease, and systemic scleroderma. I was hard from my head to my toes. Now I am at a point where they consider it, quote unquote, inactive. And so I'm doing much better now.
That's great. I love hearing your journey, and just to think that you were only 8 years old and look at you now, 19 and an advocate. Thanks for sharing that, Grace. How about you, Karen?
Yeah, so a wee bit about me and my journey. I am a poet. I'm a business leader. I am an active board director sitting on multiple boards. I have lived, worked, and traveled to almost 90 countries on 6 continents because I love to travel and I'm curious about people, and so I collect stories. And at the height of my career, when I was having the time of my life, I was forced to fly. And it began with having a blackout at work that lasted 20 minutes. And it was that blackout that forced me to do a lot more advocating for myself, what had happened. And leading up to that blackout, for about 7 years, I had a long list of issues. I would walk and I would fall down, so I'd lose my balance. I'd have what I call jackhammer-like headaches in the back of my head that would attack me anytime. None of these needed to be triggered. I would have pain throughout my body where it felt like someone was stabbing me with an ice pick or cutting me with a very short, sharp, hot knife. And the list goes on and on and on. And so that blackout is the one that really got my attention. And I began to push my care providers at the time. I fired a few along the way who weren't listening to me. And eventually I landed with a rheumatologist by happenstance. And she diagnosed me, but it didn't register to me at all. And so 13 months later, I was diagnosed again by a different rheumatologist who really began to pay attention and sent me to a long list of specialists because my issues were so varied. And it turned out I was diagnosed with 15 different things. And one of them, systemic scleroderma. And fast forward, being diagnosed, I think about 5-6 years later, I, by happenstance, decided I wanted to be a patient advocate. And that's what led me to speaking with you today.
I appreciate that, Karen. It makes me think about your journey. Took some time to get your diagnosis, and you're one of those people who it sounds like doesn't want somebody else to go through the same thing. So being an advocate can maybe change that. So I appreciate your story and what you went through. Thank you. Stephen.
I was diagnosed in 2013. Earlier in the year, there was an onset of what was later determined as Raynaud's. I, as a retired military person, I was part of the military medical branch, and they did the initial ANA test and said, okay, there's a rheumatic factor here, and they referred me outside of the military medicine to a local rheumatologist who did some further testing and happened to mention that she had did an internship with a specialist in the area at Georgetown Medical Hospital, and she recommended that I see this individual, which I did. And further tests came out with, in addition to Raynaud's, diffuse cutaneous scleroderma. So I've been under this physician's care ever since September of 2013. I've had one issue of GAVE, or the more catchy term, watermelon stomach, where the lining of your stomach bleeds. They did an endoscopy and zapped about 8 different places. And since then, knock on wood, I haven't had an issue with that. I've had one episode, throughout the disease process, the journey, things seemed to settle. The PFT function test, the pulmonary function test leveled off. The CT scans all indicated things had leveled off. And at one point, I was actually taken off of the medication. And about 3 months later, skin started to harden again. So I contacted the rheumatologist, and I've been back on a 1,000 milligram a day dosage. Fast forwarding to, and Tina, as you know, that we went through spin classes and spin training, and then broken out into groups. So I first joined Tina's group, and that's been, I don't know, what, 4 or 5 years now, I think, something like that. Yeah. And then I started attending the Greater Chicago group, and that's where I became an advocate.
Before we get into your advocacy, I want to stop you right there, because that's going to be the next conversation. Actually, I might even just let you segue into it, but I also wanted to point out just that. I think it's a fun fact that I got to meet you as a result of SPIN, Scleroderma Patient Intervention Network, where I had the honor of being one of the moderators of a SPIN COVID chat group during COVID with selected, scleroderma warriors from all over the world, and get to know you guys, and you become one of my dearest friends as a result. And we've been meeting on Zoom on a regular basis and have really gotten to know each other. And while I've not met you in person yet, we have become very good friends. And I've always knew that this guy was going to be a great advocate. I knew it. And here we are today. And I wanted to run back to Elaine real quick. As I was thinking of Karen's story, Elaine, here you were going all along this whole time with rheumatoid arthritis, and then later were diagnosed with scleroderma. And these are those important things that other people need to hear, especially our newly diagnosed. But it's also kind of hard to believe that in all these years this is still happening in the scleroderma world, but it's a reality. So I think it's important that I wanted to capture that before we went a little bit further. But I guess this will segue into what inspired you to get involved. So Stephen, I'll go back to you and I'll let you finish what you were saying. Sorry to cut you off on that. So tell me, what did inspire you to finally make this move?
I met this amazing woman. I think her name is Maria. They kind of, said, hey, have you ever thought about being an advocate? And I'm like, no. Well, there's this rare disease week coming up in February, and it's in DC. You live right outside of DC. Will you be interested in attending? I'm like, sure, why not? So I went through some of the advocacy training online through Patient Rising, and I attended the Rare Disease Week here in DC in February and met Maria and Stephanie Gresh and a few other advocates here. And we did our thing on Capitol Hill. So since then, at the end of that event, Maria asked me, she goes, so what do you think? And all I said was, I'm in. So since then, I've participated in a couple other events on Capitol Hill, virtually. I've signed up to do it again later this year. For me right now, I'm just taking my time, slowly dipping my toes into the advocacy world, and trying to do learn as much educational wise as I can through different Zooms, things that the organizations are putting out. So.
And, Stephen, you and I met on one of our little meetups with our crew, and you started telling me about Capitol Hill, and it was daunting listening to what you have to do to go from one place to another. And I don't even know without scleroderma if I could handle something like that. And so I give you a lot of credit. And I think you had reminded me that there were some areas that were like so hot, and you were trying to find areas while you were waiting in lines at some points to get in. Yeah. You have some shade over you. But it's way different from back in my day when I went. I got to tell you that right now. I'm sure it's so much bigger now as a result. But I thought about that, and I don't think people realize. But so rewarding. And I think that as you do it, you just sort of get seasoned, right? You get to really know what you're doing, and it becomes just a part of who you are. And, I think you said this is just the beginning. So you got your feet wet with it. You loved it. You made an impact. And so now you want to do more. So I appreciate you sharing that quite a bit, actually. So thank you. And I know that, Karen, were you out there too at Capitol Hill? Were you there as well?
Well, there are different events at Capitol Hill throughout the year. So no, I was not there in February. But interestingly, just 2 weeks ago today, as a matter of fact, it might be 3 weeks today, I was on Capitol Hill with the Coalition for Skin Disease organization.
Right.
And so it was Lobby Day. And at the end of the luncheon, my Illinois delegate and I were getting ready to exit the building on Capitol Hill. And in the rotunda, I heard somebody call my name. And I knew it wasn't someone who was part of the whole group with us. And I looked, and there's this man who's just walking towards me with a smile. And he reached out and extended his hand and says, "Hi, I'm Stephen. Maria told me I should find you." And it was the most pleasant and surprising and beautiful experience. So that's how I've met Stephen. Sati never had the pleasure of meeting Stephen. So that's your question about whether or not I was in Capitol Hill.
That warms my heart. And now I want to backtrack. What inspired you to get involved in?
Yeah, every year I celebrate my birthday in an extraordinary way. It's my birthday is the most important day of the year to me. And typically I pick somewhere around the world I've never gone before, where I don't know the culture, I don't know the language, because I love being challenged and I'm very curious about human beings and I want to learn. So I collect stories. And so my birthday is in June. And in 2023, for some reason, I decided I wasn't going to travel that year, but I still wanted to do something very extraordinary for my birthday. And so sitting here at home in Chicago, I decided I wanted to live a transformative life. Now, I have a high bias for action. And so here I am sitting on my couch and I said to myself, well, Karen, what does that mean in terms of action? And so I began to think through and list off a number of things that I already do to meet the criteria of living a transformative life, such as participate in clinical trials, but that wasn't good enough. On my driver's license here in Chicago, I checked the box that I want my body donated to science when I die. But then I said to myself, but you're already dead, Karen. So what's the point? That doesn't count. I've always wanted to give blood, but it turns out I'm on the advisory board for the Red Cross, and I saw the size of the needle, and it's about 12 inches long. And it's really thick, and my poor veins can't handle that. And this has something to do with scleroderma, by the way, the fact that my veins are so tiny now. And so I was frustrated. And then I decided, I'm going to donate one of my kidneys, because I used to work for a healthcare company. And so I decided, okay, I'm going to donate my kidney. And so I called my team, my healthcare team, and I asked them, can I do this? And they said, we don't know. And the other one said, we don't think so. But the kidney people, donation people, they will be the ones to tell you whether or not you're eligible. So then I changed my birthday gift to myself to go through the process to donate my kidney, because I can save life. That was the answer in terms of wanting to live a transformative life. I said, I want to save, extend, and improve the quality of patients' lives, because of, by now it was over 10 years of trying to get an answer and treatment for all that was ailing me. So given I want to save, extend, and improve the quality of patient lives, I went through the process, which is quite long, several hours. And then they called me 2 weeks later and they said, thank you, but no thank you. We don't want your kidney. And I bawled for 6 weeks straight. And of course, at the time when they told me, they said, well, because of scleroderma, you are not eligible. And that was the first time I understood scleroderma and kidney and the link there. And so I was frustrated and I bawled for 6 weeks because I couldn't figure out what to do. And then out of the blue, when I got myself back to some sense of normalcy, I remembered a friend of mine who would always talk to me every year about advocating for a particular disease that took her mother's life. And that's how the idea of patient advocacy came to life. And of course, I began doing due diligence, and I took a good 6 to 8 months doing due diligence to understand what patient advocacy really meant and what it means. And along the journey, it got me to decide that what I want to do as a patient advocate is to raise awareness and educate patients and caregivers about the power of self-advocacy, and more importantly, what it means in terms of action. And so that has led me now to develop 3 surveys that I will be launching this month in June. One is for patients, one is for caregivers, the other is for healthcare providers, because I want to know, do you or do you not advocate for yourself or your loved one or patient? If you don't, why not? If you do, here are ways, and the ways people advocate for themselves will be turned into a free resource online toolkit that I will make available, because that's the question I get from people. No, I don't advocate, or yes, or I'd like to advocate, but what do I do? People just don't know what to do. And so I have had the privilege of doing a soft launch, phase 1 launch at the spring conference in Chicago. And so by the end of this month, I will launch nationwide.
I love this. You just gave me chills while you were telling me this. One of the things that really stuck with me is the doctors, because I've been in this field since 1990, okay? I've seen this for a long time. And if you're a scleroderma specialist, it's a totally different story. But even then, there would be times, I used to get this opportunity to go to UCLA and talk to patients. It was really surreal, seeing people I haven't seen in years, in some cases, and in other times, new people, but talking to them about the organization, talking to them about getting involved, talking to them about support, outreach, resources, and watching their face change from either being very terrified over this very new diagnosis to like this sigh of relief, but not realizing all these different avenues that are out there. And one of the things that we still hear today, especially in our support group meetings, is how long it's taken to get a diagnosis, and the doctors that don't specialize, what are they doing? And you're planting a seed in them. You're almost, I don't know, like kind of forcing them to be a little bit more accountable by doing that, by having this survey. And it's very interesting. I'd love to see what they have to say about your survey and how they answer that. Not, because it's one thing to be a scleroderma specialist, but what about all the rheumatologists and others in pulmonary, in GI, in cardiology that don't have a specialty in scleroderma? Could this be a way that you're going to plant the seed and help them maybe to do that? And this kind of segues into what we're saying. It isn't just lobbying. It isn't just Capitol Hill. It's all these other little things that we can be doing to make a difference. And you've done it. And I say this all the time. When we had a big thing, Andrew and I, when we went to all the support groups and we talked to them about who we are as an organization, we also talked about, what do you want to see? What change do you want? What are the areas that you need? And we started talking about scleroderma specialists, fellowships that are learning about, scleroderma, retreats for caregivers, dentistry. But how do we do that? So you can't just wait for the organization to do it. We need people to get involved and to do more and to say something, be a voice. And so you're opening that door. And I can't wait to hear, as you did your soft launch, but your big one, and all the stuff that's going to come out of that. So grateful for your thought process and how this can really turn into something big that can not just in Chicago, for instance, it's going to be in other places too. So thank you for that. And that makes me think of you, Elaine. Once I got to meet this girl, we feel like we have this kinship, almost like there might be some DNA somewhere in there where we're related, because we have so much of this. We cut each other off. We get super excited and we can't stop talking. And our 5-minute conversations turn into an hour and a half. And I adore you.
It's true.
And so can you talk about, also what sort of brought you into getting involved in some of the things that you're doing as a result of that?
Yeah. So I think like what I said before is just, it was very scary. And the reason I advocate is because it came easy for me, the diagnosis, just because my doctors could recognize the symptoms when they started to really start gearing up and were able to test for it. But a lot of people don't have that. And there's a lot of patients out there that struggle for that diagnosis. And so I think like what you were saying to Karen about just educating rheumatologists who are not a specialist in scleroderma or haven't had the opportunity to even meet a scleroderma patient yet. That's kind of why I got involved. But also it was scary to me. I'm an educated person. I actually studied healthcare policy in college. So that's a little bit of my background. But even then, even knowing how to research things, it was so scary when I started to read about it. But just some of the things that I am doing this month, I think bringing our voice to bigger meetings to rheumatologists is super important. So actually I had the opportunity with the thankful sponsorship of the Scleroderma Foundation of California to submit a patient perspective for the ACR meeting. And if ACR Convergence is the probably biggest meeting in the world for rheumatologists, we have everybody who comes and just sharing our voice as scleroderma patients. But I'm also super excited. My husband and I are going to walk for the Million Steps for scleroderma on June 27th in Los Angeles and Orange County. It's our first walk, and I'm super excited to do that for Awareness Month, but just mainly I'm also very active on social media, and I think just telling my story, I think that's what people also might have a misconception of what advocacy is, because it isn't just going to Capitol Hill and talking to Congress, but it's also telling your story. Advocacy is giving a voice to in Latin, and there's no better person to tell your story, your experiences than you, your caregivers, your family, your friends. You all are living it. So that's what I'm kind of excited for this month.
I love that. As you were talking, it made me think of a couple things. One was this young lady. She was a teenager, and her mom was having a very difficult time just sort of wrapping her mind around scleroderma. And there was another a young lady that just became a young adult with scleroderma, and her mom is very involved with the foundation. And she kept telling the mom, I want to bring her to the walk. And she said, I'm not sure she's ready for that. And she said, well, give it a chance. And so she said, I'll pick her up. And she picked her up and she took her. And and at the time, this was way before I even started working for the foundation. I was there as a volunteer at UCLA. And there was like 600, 700 people there at this walk. And she looked around and said, look at all my people. Look at all my people. And she got really emotional, and she felt so good having that moment. And people don't realize that's a form of awareness. And we have a member of our support group that's been trying to get her family to come for years, and they finally came last year. And I remember watching their faces look around at everybody, and I think it finally resonated with them that this, that what she has is real, and what she has, has these symptoms. And I can see almost the humility come over some of the family members' faces while they were there. So for people to forget that even a walk is a form of awareness. When you bring your friends and family, I've had great friends say, I want to get involved, Tina. I see your passion. They will volunteer at a patient education day, and then they would tell me the impact of what it was for them, and it was something they didn't know until that moment. So I appreciate that. And then you talking about American College of Rheumatology, wouldn't it be just amazing to be a part of that? And on a smaller scale, the foundation would sit at a booth at our president at the time, Peggy, at the Carl Pearson Symposium for Southern California rheumatologists, for instance, and they said, why are you here? And I said, we're here to make sure that you know that there's resources out there beyond what you do as a doctor. Because while you're doing one thing, we're doing something else. And together we're giving the families the best opportunity. And we kind of put like this little form together. What do we do to help support your patients living with scleroderma? And then we did it on a wider scale with the amazing Maria and the amazing Stephanie from Greater Chicago at American College of Rheumatology last year. And I remember this one doctor saying, what's your purpose of being here? I just want to understand, what's your purpose? And I was like, okay, you ready? And so we sort of broke it down, and I said, there's so many reasons that we're here. And one of them, you just got to be careful with some of these doctors that have chips on their shoulders that they think that they know about scleroderma or don't when they're not specialists. And we say, till today, there are still people who aren't getting a diagnosis. And while you might know how to diagnose it, some of your colleagues don't. And one of the reasons that we're here is for our CME program that we worked on, and that's to educate doctors on early detection in scleroderma, and it's a free CME program for them. That was one of them. And the other would be to make sure that they know of all the resources, all the online groups, doesn't matter where you're from, that you'll have the Spanish group, the young adults, the parents of kids and teens living with scleroderma, the Get Moving, the lungs group, and then you have the specific groups, and then our come one, come all for anybody from anywhere, and watching people come together in the name of scleroderma and finally feel supported and have that education. So, and then I said, so while you're helping them, here, we're helping them here and here. We're helping them emotionally and with their heart, and we're going to help them, know that they are not alone on this journey, and they have the best opportunities to live their best self with a disease like scleroderma. So having a patient there to talk also would be so ideal to get a patient perspective, and maybe some of these doctors that don't have a specialty in scleroderma will now think about it from a different perspective because of you. And I know Stephen's working on that as well. And so it's wonderful. And for people that are listening today to get an idea of just how far advocacy goes and how it's not just, doing your elevator speech and going to Capitol Hill, which is super important and amazing for all of you that do the courses and learn everything that you need to, but there's more involved with that. So thank you, Elaine, for sharing that.
Yeah.
Grace. So I know that your beautiful mama, that's become one of my dearest friends that I think is amazing, really has helped, I think, plant the seed and watch you grow into this extraordinary young lady that you are and do the advocacy that you're doing. So I want you to talk a little bit about what type of advocacy you've been involved in, because there's a couple different things that you've done, actually several, but I know that you've been doing teaching to medical professionals, and I also know that you got involved, I think, also with the Skin Coalition when Karen was there, and then and a couple other things. So even your participation at the kids conference with Greater Chicago, which I think was just so beautiful. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I've done a lot of things already this year, and it's only, oh my gosh, June. Yeah, it's only June already. But there's even more to come for me. But so far, what I've done, I've spoken to second-year med students at Central Michigan University and Michigan State University. I spoke to future medical providers, professionals, sorry, through the Stephens Foundation. I also, as you said, helped with the kids conference with um, Greater Chicago. I helped both with organizing it and being a volunteer, which I met some amazing kids there. I'm very glad I got to help out with that. It was probably one of the most impactful thing I've done this year so far. I got to meet so many amazing kids and see where they were on their journey through scleroderma. And especially one of the kids was like, she was maybe 8 years old and she would not leave me alone. She wanted to be next to me all the time. It was adorable. And I'm so glad that I got to be there for her and for all the other young girls and boys who are there. And so that they can see that there is someone who has been in their shoes. Um, I also, as you said, went to Capitol Hill with Karen with the Coalition of Skin Diseases, which that was my first time ever going to Capitol Hill. And I am so glad that I was invited. I got to meet other people with some of my other conditions. I actually have a few other skin conditions, and meeting people who have similar conditions to me that isn't scleroderma was absolutely insane because you really feel like the only one when you don't know anyone
Validating,
else.
empowering. It's wonderful.
Yeah. And for things that are coming up in my future, we got some amazing things coming up. Uh, I am actually hopefully going to be on the news. We are going to be doing a fundraiser with a restaurant in Detroit called Grey Ghost, where they are going to make a special drink and donate the proceeds from that drink to SRF. And hopefully, we're going to have at least one news crew there to do a report on it, which I'm very excited for. The servers are also hopefully going to be wearing the same shirt I am, Sclero
Or
what
I
shirt.
have one too.
Yeah, I actually helped to design this shirt, and I am very happy with how this one turned out. Um, and then one other thing I'm doing is I'm going to be on a blog for CARA, which is Child Arthritis and Rheumatological Research Alliance. And we're going to be talking about kids with scleroderma, which I'm very excited for that as well.
Oh, that's awesome. And can I say that as I think about your impact at Greater Chicago's Kids Conference, which I thought was amazing that they took the time to do this breakout and make sure that these kids were supported. And if I remember correctly, Maria, maybe you can refresh my memory. How many different states were represented by the kids and their parents that went to that conference?
I think it was like 8, but Grace might know better than me. It was a lot, and it was good coverage across the.
I think you're right. I think it was 8 because I know there were a couple from California, Iowa, a few from Chicago.
Colorado.
Yeah, Colorado was there as well. Uh, I can't remember all of them, but there was, I think 8, maybe 9 states.
Yeah. You know what else it made me think about is not only were you impactful for these little kids that got to see Grace that was 8 years old when she was diagnosed, that's now 19, and the things that you're doing to bring awareness to scleroderma and just the way that you present yourself as a young lady is a lot. But it's also for the parents to see that life has not stopped for you and it's not going to stop for their kids. And you're empowering them to realize that there's more that they can do for this disease. And when I think about that one little girl, her parents were so afraid of letting their daughter see the reality of scleroderma, but they were also at the same time not allowing her growth. And I think it was just because of their love and their protection. I don't want this to come off for me to sound disrespectful, but you know, as parents, that's what happens sometimes. They're afraid of what they see as an adult,
Yeah.
so they're maybe worried that there's a child. But when I saw her face till this day. It's imprinted in my memory forever of the impact of her getting to have that moment and being around, others. And that's what you did. You showed these parents that there is life after diagnosis and that you can live a fulfilling life. You're in college. You're doing all these different things that are bringing awareness to scleroderma. You're helping fund research. You're supporting all these different organizations that are a big part of scleroderma and research. And so it's heartwarming and it's inspiring and I remember when I first kind of got to know you a few years back, and I've watched you grow in these few years, and I'm proud. I'm like a proud mama. You might not be my blood, but I'm proud of you too. So it's beautiful, and I commend your work. And I know that this is just the beginning, but sometimes they need somebody like you to remind them, that if, some people just want to go to a support group, just want to, meet others, which is great because it's empowering. I love those moments with the nodding of the heads, or you too, you feel that too, of friendships that ensue from it, all these different things. But there are other things that we can do. And I keep trying to remind our families that we are, a few people in the organization, Maria, Dennis, and Stephanie, and myself, Alejandra, and Andrew and Emmanuel, but we can't do it all. We need our families to step in and get involved and be the voice and share their story and allow the impact. So that's what everybody is doing, and you guys are just one part of it. And I'm hoping that, again, that seed will be planted and more people can realize that there's different opportunities to get involved as a result of it. So I'm grateful for that. Really appreciative.
And through the that kids conference, I actually learned so many different things about myself and about the kids. Like, I met a 16-year-old girl. I think she's 16. She's in her teenage years. But she was so much like me when I was her age, and I was like, it's so great to see that we can bond over things that aren't just scleroderma. And it was really kind of crazy seeing how much we had alike. And I also want to touch on the point you were saying about the one girl who their mom didn't want them to go. My mom actually was a little bit like that when I was first diagnosed. She was worried that I would get scared of seeing what happened to other people. And she thought that I'd be so afraid of becoming an advocate and talking about my scleroderma. She thought I would not want to talk about it at all. And we went to a conference for the first time, and seeing all those other kids, I wanted to help them. And now I talk to med students, and she thought I would never do that, which is kind of crazy to think that mom was a little bit hesitant, but because she did let me do it, I've been able to do so much.
You've blossomed as a result of it, and you can be the reason that somebody else, whether it's the child involved or the parent or both, can see the light at the end of the tunnel and see the importance of advocacy and allowing, it's what your mom has done to be able to balance allowing you to be a kid and grow up, but also have the responsibility of having a chronic illness that requires a certain amount of responsibility. It's not an easy thing. And some kids and parents don't know how to get to that point. And you play a role in helping them with that. And so does Pamela, by being such an amazing support group leader that we are so fortunate to have. So I get a little tickle in my chest listening to you talk, because it's beautiful. It's inspiring, and we are so proud of you. Just want you to know that we are incredibly proud of you. So thank you for sharing that. Stephen, that was your first time going to Capitol Hill and doing that, but there have been some other things that are in your thoughts that you want to get involved with. Am I correct on that?
Well,
you did the application as well, correct?
I did the application as well.
For ACR.
At one point, I was having some medical issues, and diagnosis is, well, we can put you on some antidepressants. And I'm like, yeah, nope, not happening. So I started Googling stuff and came across Tai Chi. So in 2019, I began a journey of practicing Tai Chi. And that has progressed since then. I always wanted to, they have a belt system like other martial arts. So I always wanted to do that. And after some life's curveballs, I finally got around to doing the blue belt, the first course. In July, I actually go to Sedona, Arizona for the red belt course. And I've already paid for the first degree black belt course in November. So that whole process of wanting to practice Tai Chi has helped me as a scleroderma patient with, just, my stress relief, because we all know that stress can cause the flare-ups, as with scleroderma, the flare-ups in Raynaud's. So I through the practice, I've learned that I can control that through mindfulness, breathing, such things as that. It helps with balance. It's still a little challenging standing on one foot and closing your eyes for like 30 seconds, but
I can't do that.
I can do it.
I'd get arrested for drunk driving.
So my perspective for the ACR was, here's a patient with scleroderma and how a non-pharmacological event like Tai Chi can possibly help patients with scleroderma. So Maria did go over it again this weekend. I gave it to my daughter to read, and she goes, "There's a misspelled word." I'm like, "What?" So, and there's this I should be a capital I, not a lowercase I. I'm like, oh my gosh. So I fixed it. So
yeah, my hope,
it's all good. So
I hope it would be wonderful to see you both there, as a matter of fact. And I think it's great that you even thought about it, and how nice that this could be something that people can get involved with year after year after year. Yeah. And you're starting that thought process. And if for a lot of people who don't know, after Elaine and I connected and we talked on the phone, there was a thought that she's so involved in California that she could be like our voice for all the groups that we cover in Nevada, California, Hawaii, and Arizona. And she has. And so she's gotten involved with, introducing herself on our 5 Minute Friday newsletter. And she's reached out to the advocates that Maria has put together so far that have shown interest in wanting to get involved in our areas. And we are hoping to see this sort of come into something bigger. And, that each person will be talking with Elaine about, what that looks like for them. Is it a proclamation? Is it Capitol Hill? Is it, doing the master classes? And after she did her story on our 5 Minute Friday, a couple people reached out and said, add me to the list. And if it wasn't for that, it wouldn't. So Elaine, can you speak a little bit about that?
Yeah, I just want to thank both you and Maria. I think you've been instrumental in helping me develop this. Like I said, I studied advocacy in college, and then life got busy and I didn't actually pursue it. And little did I know I'd be here advocating for myself and my community. And with the help of both you and Maria, I think I've been able to develop that. And I just wanted to touch a little bit. I think that's what advocacy brings to my life, is this sense of community and friendship. It's just hearing Stephen and his patient perspective for ACR, it's exciting to meet other people who have the interest that you do. And so I've stepped into a volunteer role to help a little bit with California's advocacy and get to meet other patients that and family. I shouldn't say it's just patients, families, friends, caregivers, whoever it is, just to meet them and see. I think that's where the organization is really great. You, Tina, and you, Maria, are really good about helping us figure out what part of advocacy fits us best. And you both developed that in me to find, I like to talk to people. So obviously that was a good role for me to do. And it's just really been fun. And I'm really looking forward to seeing our advocacy grow here in California and our partners, Greater Chicago. It'll be exciting.
Yeah, it already is. And again, just reminding people that advocacy comes in all forms and that there are different things that people can do. And sometimes they just need to hear it. They're not aware of that until we bring it to the forefront. So having Maria be that forefront, that she brought this all into existence. In the beginning, I felt overwhelmed with the whole thing, but I knew it was something that was so important. And I'm an overthinker, and Maria is very level-headed. So I think that she was able to show me that it might seem that way now, but it's all going to come together. And I have to say, it's exciting. It's exciting to see how far we've come, where we're at now, and where we're heading. And just to see that just the four of you, this is just the four of you. What about the rest of our warriors that are, trying to get involved, and the seed again that you guys are all planting. And I've kind of gotten away from myself, and we have all these questions, but I don't think we have a lot of time. And I think a question I would like, whoever wants to answer this question, what has surprised you most about advocacy? Is there anything that comes to your mind that you want to share about that? Something that you didn't expect that you can share with our audience?
I think that I was always afraid to get involved because of a time commitment. I work full time. Obviously, I have my patient life, which is numerous medical appointments and numerous treatments, and home life. We have people are parents, they're students, And so I think I was afraid of time commitment, and it surprised me because advocacy can fit into your time schedule. I always was afraid to take that leap because I thought, oh no, I'm working full time. But really it fits into you. And like you said, there's so many different areas. It could be a 5-minute post on social media about scleroderma. But the time commitment really shocked me in a good way.
I appreciate you saying that. And something else that you had said that I was thinking about was, oh my gosh, I hate these brain farts. They happen. I keep trying to blame it on my age, and hopefully that's really where it comes from. When you said it's not just patients that do advocacy, I go back to that day that I got to meet Elaine Rosen, that was the president of the foundation. And she said, I did this because of my best friend. I'm the president because of her. I'm a part of this organization because of her. And I'm here today because of her. And so she showed people that you don't have to be the patient to be the advocate. And so I appreciate that. And I think that you're reminding people when you said that in your comments. Does anybody else have a thought on that before I go to the next question?
I just wanted to jump in real quick and say that is one of the most exciting things that I've been able to do is work with teenagers who are daughters of people living with scleroderma, or my daughter even volunteered, and getting them to come out and develop their professional and personal development, have some great experience talking to Congress. It looks great on the college applications. So if you know of a young adult, teenager or young adult who would love to get involved with advocacy, we would love to pull them under our umbrella and train them up and get them out there.
Yeah, you just reminded me, my kids have been a part of scleroderma since they were babies. My daughter was born in 1990 in May, and I started working at UCLA in October. So she grew up around scleroderma her entire life. She would go to all the patient education days, the walks. Then she started volunteering as an adult at the patient education days. And there's a picture with my son at 3 in the front of a walk with all these people. And he's this little guy, he's 29 now, and to just think about their impact. And I remember when my daughter was applying for a job when she first started working and she put her volunteer work on there, they said, "What's scleroderma?" And so she got to go into her little elevator speech, when she was, I think, 17 or something. But you just sort of brought that thought to the forefront of my head when you said that. Let's see. I think we talked about how we can kind of, how people can get involved. It says, how can patients, caregivers, or young adults start advocating in a way that feels comfortable to them? Do you guys have any thoughts on that? Or Maria, thinking about that question?
It can,
Grace?
So how patients can get involved, really, you don't have to start big. I mean, I didn't really start that big at first. I started off just talking to people about it, just people I knew. And that's really what I advise a lot of people, especially kids, to do. Talk to just friends, family, people who don't know about it, and just let them know. Tell them about it. Tell them what they need to know about it to help you, and let them know just what it's like and all of that so that they can understand you. And it's such a small way to even just advocate for yourself that it doesn't seem like it's advocacy, but it really is. I do it all the time to advocate for myself at school, and I tell my teachers about it. I think I've told every teacher I have had since 8th grade about it. And before that, my mom would tell them for me. But since about 8th grade, I would tell them by myself. And that was a really great way for me to understand my condition and understand what it was. And even if you are more courageous than that and you want to do something bigger, you can, as said, you can post on social media. You can even just find an organization that's doing something like a walk and volunteer, or just go and support the walk.
I love that. Everything that you said, Grace, and I appreciate you even mentioning all of that. You also made me think of Alejandra, which when I first met her, she was just still wrapping her head around her new normal of living with scleroderma. And then I watched her blossom into the young lady that she is today, becoming a support group leader, doing her own blog as well, and being invited to different platforms to talk about scleroderma, to even do a panel of young adults a couple times, and even makeup for somebody from a different state that asked her to be a part of it. And so there's all these different ways. So I appreciate you saying that. And Karen, you had your hand raised. You wanted to also add something to that?
Yeah, I will add a wee bit more under what Grace just said, and to what many of us have said consistently. But what I have found talking with people is they just don't know where to begin with their story. So this is what I have to offer in thinking about crafting your story. Number one, patients are the CEOs of their bodies, which makes them the experts on their story.
Yes.
Family members, work colleagues and bosses, healthcare providers, educators, politicians, they need data, or stories, to make effective decisions. So with that, I will offer, draw 3 columns on a sheet of paper. Column 1, write down all your health challenges. What are all the things you've been diagnosed with? What are all the things you've experienced? Column 2, what is the impact? Write down the impact of your health challenges. Just list them, as many as you can capture. And number 3, column 3, I need help to do X. I need help with why. A question you could have is, if you don't know how you need help or with what, be prepared to ask the person, how can you help me? Given what I've just shared in terms of my health issues and the impact of my health issues on my life, how can you help me? So that's what I have to offer there.
I love that, and I appreciate it, because what you probably just did was help some people finally be able to get something on paper and write it down and think about it, get it out of their head, and even validate themselves in putting it together. And maybe it'll feel so empowering that they might realize, hey, I think I can make something more out of this. I can become an advocate. So well said, Karen, and I appreciate that.
The only thing I'll add to it, which is right, so now you can tell your story. The other piece I would add to how to be an advocate beyond sharing your story is to think about your career and life experiences, and think about what makes you an expert and what do you enjoy doing, and listing those things. And from those things, then ask yourself the question, which of these things would I be willing to leverage? Which of these would be helpful to me as an advocate? And then the third thing I would say, just tell somebody you want to be an advocate. Maria will help you find ways. Trust me, she has a long list of ways.
I agree. Yeah, I didn't even know there was half of them out there until I talked to her. So I agree with you, and thank you for that. Alejandra, you had a question that you wanted to ask the advocates.
Yes. What's one word that describes this community?
So as you think about that, anybody want to go first? Can you just describe it in one impactful word?
Engaged.
What was that, Karen?
Engaged.
Engaged. That's a good one.
Passionate.
Passionate. Another good one.
Strong.
Strong. Absolutely. Warrior strong. What about you, Grace? Any word that comes to mind for you?
There's a lot of words. Personally, I always think of empowering.
Absolutely. And even though I'm not the advocate being here, I think as I look at everybody, courage, because it takes courage also to do something like this, definitely. Maria, there was something else that I think you wanted to maybe touch on before we closed shop for the day about other ways that people can get involved. Is there anything that you want to just close this with? And then Alejandra, we can see if there's any closing thoughts, okay?
Yeah, we decided to get together this month because it is June Scleroderma Awareness Month, and there was still time left to get involved. June 29th is World Scleroderma Day. Tell your story. There's also our next event to the Lobby Day, okay? This is in-district lobby days. In August, everyone in DC goes home. There's no rush hour. It's the weirdest thing. But that means that we as constituents can meet with our lawmakers in our home districts in August. And the EverLife Foundation hosts Rare across America. I invite you to sign up. You will have meetings with both your senators and your House representatives. Some will be virtual, some will be in person in district. You don't have to go to DC. Sign up, and if your schedule changes and you're not able to make it, you just say you can't make it that day. But even if you get to go to one or two meetings, it's a great way to get started. It's a lot less daunting than going to DC. You get lots of training and support, and it's just a great way to dip your toes in.
Thank you for saying that. I appreciate it. And we'll make sure that the contact information will be in our final recording on our YouTube channel. So if anybody else sees this and feels empowered and wants to get more involved after listening to you amazing advocates and scleroderma warriors, they can reach out to Maria, they can reach out to us and let us know, and we can grow this on a level that we've never seen before and make the impact that we really are fighting for. So I appreciate that. Alejandra, any last thoughts as well?
Yes, I think to add on to Maria, what she said, what we can do in June, the Scleroderma Foundation of California and Greater Chicago are teaming up with SRF with the hashtag Say Scleroderma. Say your story, tell your story, any information that you think it's important, put it out on social media, put it out on videos. Always use the hashtag Say Scleroderma. That way we can get the word out in June, especially about what scleroderma is. Record yourself. We are recording our support groups. We are talking to our support groups, even if we're virtually recording with them saying, say scleroderma, when they were diagnosed, a little fun fact about themselves, and posting it on our social media.
Yeah, I love that, Alejandra. It's a great way also for everybody. We were trying to figure out a way to get everybody pinned, but apparently Zoom won't let pin everybody at the same time. We wanted to do some little hearts while everybody said say scleroderma, but I don't know how that's going to work out. But we're gonna try it tonight, and we'll see how our editing skills work out. So, well, with that said, I think we've covered everything. Is there any last thought from anybody before we end the interviews?
Yeah, I'd like to throw out something. We talked about, I went to my grandson's graduation this weekend, and one of the students spoke at the end about change, how that, as a freshman all the way through their senior year, how they met with change and how that's changed their lives, how they had to et cetera, et cetera. And we've talked a little bit about here. Karen mentioned about change. And it made me think about, there's a saying that I think may be attributed to Gandhi, in that be the change you want to see in the world. Now, you can modify that to be the change you want to see in the scleroderma world. But it's kind of like and it's, the meaning is, it's like the change doesn't just happen. It starts with individual action. So I don't want to challenge myself, but just to challenge everybody else in the advocacy world. Be the change you want to see.
Beautifully said, Stephen. Thank you. And Karen, final thought?
And it's a great add-on to what Stephen's call to action. I am the patient Senate leader for the state of Illinois of 13 million people. And what it means is I am building an advocacy team across the entire state. And so if you're interested in joining my mighty team, we're doing some extraordinary things. Please send a message via LinkedIn to me, or you can email me at karen@bridgearrow.com. That's karen@bridgearrow.com. Maria definitely knows how to find me, so you can also let Maria know you need to get a hold of me.
And Karen, that will be something that will be in our recording, as well as Elaine, because Elaine is trying to do the same thing here under the states that we support. And we want people to be able to come to I call it a hub of, strong leadership, and learn the different things that they can do as a result of you guys and your examples. So thank you for your time today, and for your beautiful, beautiful efforts and hard work, and your examples in the scleroderma community. We can't do it without you, and I hope that what you guys have said today resonate with our extraordinary warriors out there that say that I can do that too. So thank you.